If you are listening to this in the quiet of the morning, or perhaps in the stillness of the evening, you may have noticed that the air around you feels different. It is not a difference that can be measured by temperature or season, but rather a difference in the density of the atmosphere itself. For a very long time, you have moved through life with a sense of bracing, a subtle tightness in the spirit that expected resistance, that anticipated the next hurdle, the next lesson, or the next necessary ego death. But here in this current phase, that tension has evaporated. There is a recognition settling into your bones, a silent acknowledgement that the battle, the internal war for clarity, for worthiness, and for understanding, has quietly ceased. This is not a dramatic fanfare. There are no fireworks in the sky, and there is no thunderous voice from the heavens announcing your arrival. Instead, there is something far more profound, a silence that does not feel empty. In the past, silence was often a source of anxiety. It was the space where doubts would fester, where the mind would race to fill the void with questions about your trajectory or your purpose. But the silence you are experiencing now is different. It is the silence of a machine that has finally been turned off after running at maximum capacity for years. It is the silence of a nervous system that has finally received the signal that it is safe to come down from the watchtower. You may find yourself waking up and realizing that the immediate urge to fix something is gone. The compulsion to scan your internal horizon for problems to solve, for emotions to process, or for shadows to integrate has simply vanished. This is the state of quiet recognition. It is the realization that you are no longer becoming, you simply are. Consider the feeling of a long journey. When you are on the road, your mind is constantly calculating distance, speed, fuel, obstacles. But when the engine cuts in the driveway, there is a moment where the vibration stops, yet the body still remembers the motion. You are in that moment now. The motion of the struggle has stopped, but you are still adjusting to the stillness. You are recognizing that the landscape has changed. You are no longer climbing the mountain. You are standing on the plateau. This recognition is personal. It does not require anyone else to validate it. In fact, seeking validation for this piece feels counterintuitive, almost like trying to explain the color of the wind. It is an internal knowing that sits in the center of the chest, unmoving and heavy with truth. You know, without needing to be told, that the era of constant testing has concluded. The universe is no longer asking you to prove your resilience. It is no longer throwing obstacles in your path to see if you will jump or stumble. That phase of your curriculum is complete. Now, the invitation is not to fight, but to witness. To witness your own life not as a project to be managed, but as an experience to be inhabited. This is the quiet recognition of sovereignty. You are recognizing that the authority you looked for in stars, in teachers, in signs, and in others, has quietly taken up residence within your own ribcage. You may be asking why this shift feels so distinct, yet so hard to describe to those who are not walking this path. The difference lies in the shift from seeking to being. For years, your identity was wrapped in the pursuit. You were the seeker, the healer, the one breaking the generational curses, the one clearing the karmic debris. There was a nobility in that struggle, a sense of purpose in the pain. But now, things feel different because that identity is shedding. You are no longer defined by what you are enduring. You are beginning to be defined by what you are emitting. The energy has reversed. Instead of pulling, clawing, and climbing toward a destination, you are radiating from a fixed point of stability. This feeling of difference is actually the sensation of coherence. In the past, your energy was fragmented. Part of you was in the past, analyzing what went wrong. Part of you was in the future, worrying about what was coming. And only a sliver of you was in the present, trying to survive. Now, the fragments have returned home. The inner sun has stabilized. You feel different because you are whole. When you are whole, the world responds to you differently. Not because the world has changed, but because your interface with it has been upgraded. You may notice that the urgency that used to drive you has dissolved. Urgency is a symptom of misalignment. It is the fear that you are missing something or that time is running out. But when you are aligned, time stops feeling like an enemy and starts feeling like a companion. This phase is characterized by a sacred pause that has become a permanent state of being rather than a temporary respite. It feels different because the noise of the world, the opinions of others, the collective panic, the societal pressure to perform, no longer penetrates your field in the same way. It is as if you are watching a storm through a thick pane of glass. You see the rain, you see the wind, but you are dry, you are warm, you are untouched. The frantic need to explain yourself has also faded. This is a massive energetic shift. In the past, you might have felt a compulsion to justify your silence, your boundaries, or your path. That need stemmed from a lack of internal stability. Now, because you understand your own reasons, you no longer require others to understand them. This lack of a need for external agreement creates a vacuum of peace around you. Furthermore, the emotional labor you used to perform has ended. You are no longer working for your worth. You are no longer trying to heal every emotion that surfaces. You have realized that emotions are just weather patterns passing through the sky of your awareness. They do not require a construction crew, they just require a witness. This release of effort is why you feel lighter, yet more grounded. It is the paradox of spiritual weight. The more grounded you are, the lighter you feel. Things feel different because the resistance is gone. Resistance is the friction created when your inner truth rubs against your outer actions. Now that your actions are aligning with your truth, the friction has ceased. You are gliding. This lack of friction can feel strange at first, almost slippery, but it is the feeling of aerodynamic flow. You have stopped fighting the current and have become the water. One of the most significant markers of this time is the silence of the old ghosts. We all carry emotional loops, repetitive patterns of reaction, thought, and feeling that have played out in our lives like a broken record for decades. These loops were often triggered by rejection, by abandonment, by disrespect, or by uncertainty. For a long time, these loops defined your reality. A specific tone of voice would trigger a spiral of self-doubt. A lack of communication would trigger a spiral of panic. But in this new space, you will notice a profound phenomenon. The trigger is pulled, but the gun does not fire. The external event may still happen. Someone may misunderstand you, a plan may change, a disappointment may occur, but the internal cascade of devastation does not follow. The loop has been severed. This completion is not about apathy. It is not that you do not care. It is that you have graduated from the lesson that the loop was teaching. The karmic contract regarding those specific emotions has expired. You have extracted the wisdom, and the pain is no longer required as a delivery mechanism. Imagine walking past a house where you used to live. You recognize the door, the windows, the garden. You have memories there, but you no longer have the key, and more importantly, you have no desire to go inside. That is how your old emotional loops feel now. You see them. You recognize them. You honor that you once lived inside that fear or that anger, but you are just walking past. This is evident in how you handle memory. Memories of past hurts or failures may resurface during this time, but they arrive without their charge. They float up like bubbles, pop, and disappear. They do not drag you down into the undertow. This is because your nervous system has stopped identifying with the story of the victim. You are reinterpreting the past not through the lens of what you lost, but through the lens of how it carved you into this vessel of capacity. The completion of these loops also brings a cessation of rehearsing. You may find that you no longer have imaginary arguments in the shower. You no longer plan conversations that might never happen. You no longer brace for impact. This mental quiet is the result of the loop's closing. When the loop is open, the mind spins trying to close it. When the loop is closed, the mind rests. This creates an abundance of available energy. The energy you used to spend managing these loops, keeping the anxiety at bay, processing the grief, analyzing the interactions, is now returned to you. It is raw capital. It is available for creation, for observation, and for simple enjoyment of the moment. You are no longer leaking energy into the past. You are fully sealed in the present. The universe acknowledges this completion by changing the cast of characters in your life. As the internal loops close, the people who were assigned to keep those loops active, the antagonists, the drainers, the confusers, naturally drift away. There is no need for a dramatic eviction. They simply lose their magnetic attachment to your field because the hook they used to grab onto has dissolved. We must understand that this spiritual shift is not merely a concept in the mind. It is a biological reality in the body. The end of the test is experienced physically as the regulation of the nervous system. For years, you may have been operating in a subtle, chronic state of fight or flight. This survival mode is addictive. It keeps the senses sharp, the muscles tense, and the mind hypervigilant. It is a way of being that says, "I am not safe, so I must be ready." What is happening now is a profound downshifting. Your body is moving from a sympathetic dominance, fight/flight, to a parasympathetic state, rest, digest, heal. This is why you may feel a sudden, deep exhaustion, or conversely, a strange, floaty calmness. It is the feeling of the armor being taken off. This regulation feels like safety. But for someone who has never felt truly safe, safety can initially feel boring or even unsettling. We are used to the adrenaline of the highs and lows. We are used to the chaos. When the chaos stops, the nervous system scans for the threat, asking, "Where is the danger?" When it finds none, it finally deeply exhales. You will notice this regulation in your breath. It is deeper, slower, and sits lower in the belly. You will notice it in your shoulders, which have dropped away from your ears. You will notice it in your sleep, which may become heavier and more restorative, or perhaps filled with vivid, clear dreams as the subconscious cleans house. This biological safety changes your perception of the world. When you are in survival mode, everything looks like a threat or a resource. People are either enemies or saviors. But when you are regulated, people are just people. Situations are just situations. You develop neutrality. Neutrality is not a lack of feeling. It is the ability to observe a feeling without being hijacked by it. It is the ability to stand in the middle of the room and feel grounded, regardless of the temperature of the room. This regulation is the foundation of your new authority. You cannot hold high-frequency spiritual power in a nervous system that is cracking under pressure. The universe had to wait until you were stable enough to hold the charge. This current phase of calm is the curing of the concrete. It is the hardening of the foundation, so that you can build the skyscraper of your destiny without it collapsing. The anxiety that used to chase you, the feeling that you should be doing more, being more, achieving more, was simply the hum of a dysregulated nervous system. Now that the hum has quieted, you can hear your own intuition. Intuition speaks in the quiet. It does not shout over the noise of panic. By regulating your body, you have tuned the radio to the station of your higher self. You are learning to trust this physical sensation of peace. You are learning that a racing heart is not a sign of excitement, but a sign of misalignment. You are learning that butterflies are not always love. Sometimes they are a warning. You are learning to navigate by the compass of your own calm. This is the ultimate freedom, to be at home in your own body, no longer looking for an exit, no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. You are safe. You are here. You are ready. As the nervous system regulates and the old loops close, a new faculty begins to dominate your daily experience. It is the faculty of discernment. For much of your life, you may have confused attachment with connection. You may have believed that holding on tightly was an act of love, or that enduring misalignment was an act of loyalty. You may have thought that if you just explained yourself clearly enough, or loved hard enough, you could bridge the gap between your soul and another's. But in this phase, that illusion dissolves. You are entering a period where discernment replaces attachment. This is not a coldness entering your heart. It is a clarity entering your vision. You begin to see that not every open door is an invitation, and not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. You are realizing that some connections naturally fade, not because of conflict or betrayal, but because the energetic contract has simply expired. In the past, you might have fought against these expirations. You might have tried to resuscitate dead dynamics out of a fear of loss. But now, you understand a fundamental spiritual law. Silence is not always abandonment. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes silence is discernment. You are learning to distinguish between the people who feed your spirit and the people who are simply feeding off your light. This shift manifests physically. You may notice that your tolerance for misalignment drops sharply. It is no longer a moral judgment you make against others. It is an energetic reaction in your body. When you are around people who are committed to their own confusion, you feel a physical drain, a heaviness that you can no longer ignore. You begin to realize that you cannot afford to leak energy into voids that refuse to be filled. This is the process of filtration. The universe is filtering your reality, removing the elements that are too dense to exist in the new atmosphere you are cultivating. It is essential to understand that this filtration is not a punishment for them, nor is it a tragedy for you. It is simply physics. Two frequencies that are vastly different cannot occupy the same space without friction. You are done with friction. Therefore, you find yourself becoming selective. You decline invitations that you once would have accepted out of guilt. You step back from conversations that loop in circles. You realize that you do not need to witness everyone's awakening, nor are you responsible for processing their emotions for them. This is a boundary that many struggle with, especially those with deep empathy. But you are learning that empathy does not require self-sacrifice. You can wish someone well from a distance without inviting their chaos into your sanctuary. This discernment extends to your own desires as well. You stop chasing outcomes that do not fit, simply because you think you should want them. You stop forcing timelines. You recognize that what is meant for you will not require you to abandon your dignity to keep it. The frantic energy of trying to make it work is replaced by the calm observation of, is this working? Ultimately, this chapter of your life is about conserving your power. You are no longer scattering your energy to the four winds in the hopes that some of it lands on fertile ground. You are keeping your energy concentrated, using it to water the garden within your own walls. You are learning that peace is not something you maintain by being accommodating. It is something you maintain by being discerning. When discernment clears the field, you are left with alignment. But this is not the alignment of the past, which was often a mental concept or a goal you were striving toward. This is a felt sense of alignment that lives in the body. It is the new standard. The hallmark of this new standard is the end of the apology tour. For years, you may have lived with a subtle, underlying apology for your own existence, apologizing for your sensitivity, for your intensity, for your need for solitude, for your boundaries. You may have felt a constant need to explain yourself, to provide a thesis statement for why you are the way you are, hoping that if you explained it well enough, you would be granted permission to exist. That ends now. The urge to explain yourself weakens. You realize that the people who understand you do not need explanations, and the people who demand them were never going to understand you anyway. You stop negotiating your value. You stop lowering your frequency to make others comfortable. You stop shrinking to fit into rooms that were built for a smaller version of you. This new alignment is characterized by internal authority. It is an authority that does not need to roar. It does not need to prove it is right. It simply is. It is the quiet certainty of the mountain that does not need to argue with the wind. When you operate from this place, you do not seek external validation because you have become your own source of confirmation. You may notice that you stop looking to the world to tell you who you are. The inward sun has taken over. This means that your sense of worth no longer rises and falls with the applause or the silence of others. If they clap, you are steady. If they criticize, you are steady. If they leave, you are steady. This is the definition of being unshakable. This alignment changes how you move through time. You stop rushing. You realize that destiny does not recalibrate through force. It recalibrates through perception. You understand that rushing is a symptom of fear, fear that you are late, fear that you are missing out. But when you are aligned, you know you are exactly where you need to be. You move with the slow, inevitable power of the tide. Your presence becomes your signal. You do not need to announce your transformation. You do not need to broadcast your spiritual resume. Your energy speaks before you open your mouth. People can feel the coherence in your field. They can sense that you are no longer warring with yourself. This recognizable energy attracts what belongs to it and repels what does not, without you having to lift a finger. Living this new standard means you are no longer available for relationships or situations that require you to betray yourself. The cost is simply too high. You have tasted the sweetness of your own soul, and you are no longer willing to trade it for scraps of affection or approval. You are choosing alignment over attention. You are choosing sovereignty over safety. And in this choice, you find that life begins to cooperate with you. The struggle that defined so many years of your life begins to recede, not because life becomes effortless, but because you have stopped resisting your own nature. You are flowing with the design of your soul rather than against it. You are no longer trying to be a different person. You are fully, unapologetically, quietly yourself. We arrive now at the final stage of this transition, integration. This is not the excitement of the breakthrough. It is the solidity of the new ground. It is the curring of the concrete. It is the seal upon the timeline. Many people mistake the spiritual path for a constant series of explosive awakenings. They look for the fireworks, the tears, the dramatic realizations. But the truest sign of mastery is stability. It is the ability to hold the light without flickering. It is the ability to sustain the frequency of peace during a Tuesday afternoon, during a traffic jam, during a moment of boredom. You are entering a phase where you are building from ground. In the past, you may have built your life on the shifting sands of trauma responses, building from a need to prove, a need to survive, or a need to escape. Structures built on such foundations always collapse. But now you are building on the bedrock of your own integrated identity. What you build now will last. This integration feels like a trajectory rather than a moment. A moment is fleeting. A trajectory is a direction that holds. You are locked into a new direction. The universe is no longer testing you to see if you will go back. The door to the past has been sealed, not with anger but with the quiet finality of growth. You simply do not fit there anymore. The seal is the stabilization of your nervous system, your energy body, and your mental state into a cohesive unit. You are no longer fragmented. You are one piece. This means that your heart, your head, and your gut are finally in a boardroom meeting where they all agree. There is no longer a civil war inside you. As you integrate this state, you will notice that you stop becoming and you simply are. The relentless pressure to improve, to fix, to heal, to upgrade begins to fade. You realize that you are not a project to be completed. You are a being to be expressed. The observation phase has ended and the living phase has begun. This is the sacred pause transformed into a permanent state of grace. It is the understanding that stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the absence of wasted movement. You are efficient with your energy now. You move when called. You speak when necessary. You rest without guilt. You have walked through the long night. You have faced the shadows, the silence, and the solitude. And you have emerged not as someone who survived the dark, but as someone who understands the light. You know now that the light does not rush. It returns slowly, incrementally, creating roots as it grows. So as you stand in this new timeline, do not look for the applause. Do not look for the external trophy. The reward is the quietness in your head. The reward is the steadiness in your chest. The reward is the fact that you can look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back at you. You have arrived at the place where destiny does not recalibrate through force. It recalibrates through perception. Your perception has been cleansed. Your roots are deep. Your signal is clear. Nothing needs to happen for this to be real. What matters is that you are steady inside yourself now. The work is done, the seal is set, you are here.